The Steam Machine is among the most highly anticipated releases of 2026. And the most debated topic surrounding this new device is its price point. Many agree that the price will be make or break for the Steam Machine. While it is a very compelling device, it's also by no means the most powerful, and many are hoping that it is very competitively priced compared to competing PCs and even kind of competitively priced in the console space. So if we look at surveys talking about what people hope for the Steam Machine to be priced at, you can see that the majority of people are thinking like the $500 range. Now, while that's the hope, many would agree that that seems highly unlikely, especially after Valve have come out and said multiple times that they're not going to subsidize the Steam Machine and they're not going to treat it as a console, because it is not a console. It's actually a PC. It's not kind of this closed system. It is an open system. It doesn't have any exclusives. You know what I mean? They can't subsidize it like they can with a console. And so some people have a more, I'd say, realistic expectation of this being closer to $800, with, about 32% in this survey saying that they would purchase the Steam Machine at roughly that price. But anything above that, and the number of people who would purchase this device drastically decreases. But yeah, that's something that we'll have to continue debating, because there's no official announcement yet on the part of Valve as to what the Steam Machine's price will be, despite the fact that this machine is coming out in 2026. Valve are biding their time to make sure they can lock in that price, and for good reason, given the kind of chaotic landscape when it comes to the electronics market. Now, what we have seen recently are discussions surrounding an alleged leak of the Steam Machine's price point that is getting a lot of attention. And what I want to do in this video is talk about that leak and let you know where the truth versus the falsehoods lie, what we do know for sure, what's speculative, and what is unlikely. And it all starts with this Reddit post right here, speculating that based on something they saw, that the Steam Machine price might have leaked, and that for a 2 terabyte version of this device, you might be looking at over $1,000. So where does this speculation come from? Well, this individual spotted that if you go to smarty.cz, which is a retailer in the Czech Republic, you'll find that the Steam Machine is listed here. And while there's no price point right here in the eyes of the public, if you dig deeper into the page and kind of data mine it, what people discovered is that internally the retailer does have price points for these machines. And looking at the guts of the website, if you will, what was discovered is that Smarty listed the Steam Machine at an amount of currency in the Czech Republic that is approximately $950 for the 512 gigabyte model, and a little over $1,000, $1,070 to be precise, for the 2 terabyte model. Worth noting is that this is a third-party seller who tends to jack up prices. So, for example, people have highlighted how they're selling the Steam Deck OLED 512 gigabyte version for about $766, when on Steam's official website, they sell that model for $550. And then the 1 terabyte version on Smarty, it's being sold for, almost $1,000 or $958 to be precise, when at Steam, you'll find the same device for $650. Now, some folks have highlighted that using US dollars is less accurate on smarty.cz due to the fact that US prices don't take into consideration VAT or value-added tax. So people are resorting to using euros to gauge what kind of markup we're looking at for this website. And using euros, people have discovered that we're looking at around a 17% margin for, say, like the 1 terabyte version of the Steam Deck OLED. So what people are doing is reducing the price points listed here by about 17%. And if you do that, then the 512 gigabyte model comes down closer to like $788. Maybe if you round that up, $800, or if you round down $750. And then the 2 terabyte model comes in at roughly $888. Which, if you round up, maybe it's $900. If you round down, $850. And the reason people are lending some credence to this is due to the fact that Smarty does seem to be an authorized seller for Valve products in the Czech Republic. So the speculation is that Valve is ready to announce the price soon, and they've informed retailers to prepare them. And one of the retailers here, Smarty, accidentally leaked the price points, or rather put it on the back end of their website in a way where people could dig in further, data mine, and discover what the internal price points are. And based on that information, people are speculating what price points could be in US dollars. Close to $800 for the 512 gigabyte version, and close to $900 for the 2 terabyte version. Now, this is all completely speculative. The people who found this data are saying take this with a grain of salt. The general assumption amongst folks who are more skeptical about this is that this is just a placeholder price point. But this alleged leak is going viral enough and people are lending enough credence to this information that it's worth discussing about. It's worth talking about the fact that these price points are likely not accurate. NewsOutlet Video Cards right here breaks it down really well, talking about how after that one post spread, another user checked this outlet Alza and reported a similar setup. The Steam Machine shows up as a catalog item, Valve Steam Machine, with a price field attached, even though the store page is not presenting a finalized retail offer yet. And if you look at the internals of this website, you'll find that at the highest price point, the Steam Machine is listed for 29,990 Czech currency, or the Czech koruna as it's called. And if you translate that to US dollars, we're looking at a price point of $1,436.77. That's way too high a price point. That I don't think makes a whole lot of sense. So yeah, the fact that price points are kind of all over the place indicates that these are likely just estimated guesses and placeholders. Not to mention that the 2 terabyte version of the Steam Machine being only like $100 more expensive than the 512 gigabyte version also doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. That's enough of a jump in SSD storage that the 2 terabyte version would likely be, like at least $200 more expensive than the 512 gigabyte version. Even with a Steam Deck, the jump from 512 gigabytes to 1 terabyte was $100 worth of difference. So from 512 to 2 terabytes, I would assume that the price difference would be definitely significantly more than that. And Video Cards right here aptly highlights how this is a common pattern for unreleased hardware pages. Retailers create placeholder listings early for search traffic and indexing. The backend still needs a numeric value for analytics, internal catalog tooling, or templated from pricing logic. That number can be a guess, a temporary placeholder, or an internal estimate that gets replaced once the distributor feed is live. What both listings have in common is they lack basic identifiers from the manufacturer or official distribution channels, such as a proper product code and an EAN/UPC. If those details are missing, we usually ignore any pricing or spec fields attached to the listing because the page is often just a placeholder. Now, Video Cards highlights how, according to their math, discrepancies between price points at Czech Republic's retailers versus what the price point is on Steam, the discrepancy can be as high as 37% from what they're seeing. I don't know if this website is taking the VAT, the value-added tax, that is a nationwide tax for the Czech Republic, in mind. But the point is, if these Czech Republic retailers actually know the price point of the Steam Machine, then you could math it out in such a way where the price points would, kind of fall into a territory that makes sense for the Steam Machine. And that's another reason for why people are lending credence to these alleged leaks, because the price points seem plausible, not ideal, but believable, especially given the current landscape of electronics components going up in prices and inflation being just like ridiculous right now. But all indications currently seem to be pointing to these Czech Republic retailers not actually knowing the price of the Steam Machine. It's just them making an estimate for a placeholder price point so they can have the product and the fact that they're going to sell it eventually up and running on their website. So yeah, this is news that has spread far and wide enough, and people are spreading this information enough that I felt the need to make a video to clarify what we know for sure and what seems to be, relatively questionable information, or information you shouldn't take too much stock in. Speculation surrounding the Steam Machine's price point will continue, but no doubt at Valve, they're actually probably struggling on this front. The volatility surrounding the electronics market as a result of the massive inflation caused by AI and their hoarding of DRAM is something that no doubt will disrupt their plans. Valve is probably gauging what are realistic price points for the Steam Machine based on what consumers are willing to pay, but also based on just economic factors like the fact that RAM just costs ridiculous prices now. And we're seeing the same happen for SSDs, for GPUs, so on and so forth. I mean, we've seen RAM kits like, 64 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM just double to triple in price, to the point where, back in December of 2025, we saw the price point for this kit at $900. And now if you go to Amazon and look at the same listing, you see it for $1,100. So the RAM prices just keep increasing. You've got all three major RAM manufacturers, Micron, as well as Samsung and SK Hynix, all saying that shortages when it comes to RAM will likely persist for quite a while, with Micron in particular saying that the shortages will definitely last beyond 2026, as these companies focus more on supporting AI companies and AI servers. Like Micron full-on exited the crucial consumer business as a result of how lucrative AI is for them to be able to sell RAM en masse to those companies, screwing over consumers along the way. You've got folks like Samsung allegedly planning to raise DDR5 contract prices by over 100%. Recently, we've even heard of GPU companies like NVIDIA planning to reduce RTX 50 production by up to 40% in early 2026. And we're seeing reports that both NVIDIA and AMD are planning to significantly increase GPU prices starting next month, with the 5090 potentially going from what's currently $2,000 to a whopping $5,000. That's 2.5 times more than the original retail MSRP. Things are so bad that we're hearing rumors that NVIDIA might be planning to re-release the RTX 3060 series of graphics cards to compensate for the GPU shortage, as well as the inflation of GPUs caused by the lack of DRAM due to DRAM hoarding on the part of AI companies, and this mass influx of demand for RAM as companies try to scramble to get as much RAM that is in circulation currently as possible before prices skyrocket. Companies like Asus have already announced that they will be increasing prices to various products starting January 5th, 2026, including the ROG Ally handheld PC gaming devices. We're seeing calculations and estimates of what it's like to build a PC back in 2023 versus 2026. A PC that would normally cost you, a little over $5,000 in 2023 might cost you $8,500 in 2026 if prices keep going at the rate that they currently are. And things are so uncertain and so dire right now that companies like PlayStation are considering delaying their next-gen console until things stabilize on this front. And so, under these circumstances, it is no wonder that Valve has not been able to announce definitive price points for the Steam Machine. But if they plan to release the Steam Machine within the window that they said they would, then they have to announce a price sooner rather than later. But that is a risky exercise right now because nobody knows what the landscape of electronics will look like in a year or two and what kind of price point needs to be set now to weather out the storm of the current RAM shortages and inflation. Nobody knows if Valve is actually fully ready to weather out the storm, whether they've managed to stockpile RAM to a point where they can make a bunch of Steam machines for a while at, reasonable price points, or if they ultimately had a price in mind, but now after everything that's happened internally, they're forced to increase prices to compensate for the electronics inflation going on right now, to a point where this product may not have the mass market appeal that it might have had it not been for what companies like Valve are being forced to do for prices as a result of just how electronics are being influenced by AI right now. But we can only speculate, and speculation is certainly happening, especially with, these retailer prices from other countries, with people trying to calculate potential price points that seem realistic enough where some folks are maybe believing this information. But I would not take stock in this. Maybe they'll have guessed something that is relatively close to what the final Steam Machine price will be. If the prices align with what the actual final MSRP is for the Steam Machine, then it was likely just a coincidence. I don't think these guys actually know from Valve what the exact price point is. Hell, I don't even think Valve right now fully, really, truly knows what the exact price point of the Steam Machine will be. I think they're still evaluating that. It's a pretty momentous and difficult decision right now. I don't envy Valve being in this position. Luck just wasn't on their side with them releasing the Steam Machine at exactly the time when, things are hitting that perfect storm of just shit happening where electronics prices are at a level that is unprecedented. But yeah, I figured I'd tackle this topic so you can be in the know about what's going on here when it comes to the Steam Machine and what we know about its current speculated price point. I hope you found this video useful, and in the meantime, I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on what the Steam Machine price will be. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.